Hi, I'm Al Salehai,
And I'm Mekabis Mahajer, and welcome to another episode of
the Doctor and the Devil's Advocate. Today we are back with our guest, Clifford McGee.
Yes.
Clifford, thank you again for coming on our show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me once again.
So we left off talking about race relations.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about essentially how the political system, specifically I guess in America, confronts with racism as far as blacks are concerned. A couple of different things that we're looking here are regarding fairness. One of the things that I know we want to talk about is the number of disproportionate people that are in prison that are black. And also, I believe that the way, for example, I know standardized testing is also being challenged. On that point, the last thing that you had mentioned to me when we had talked is that common sense is common sense. That everyone has, for example, the same common sense. Is that correct?
No, he said.
I'm asking him.
No. Yeah, that's not what I was saying. To the point that you made, you said you will speak to my common sense.
Right.
What I was saying, I believe in this conversation, we all have a pretty good understanding of what common sense is.
I believe that that's not completely accurate. For example, the reason
In this,
All right, but
He's talking about
I know.
me, you, and him.
For example,
in the world, no.
but
He's talking
even
about
here
us.
it's different because
Yes.
that's where the
You're an
standardized.
idiot.
Okay, well you're wrong. That's where standardized testing debate comes from.
Okay.
Because, for example, the way that a
Interesting.
white person approaches a question on the SATs or other standardized tests is different than a way the black person would, because the common sense is different for the way that they would approach the answer and the question. That actually is not coming from me. That's coming from the civil rights movement for people who want to change the standardized testing to base it towards race and the way that you were raised. So therefore, there is an argument to be made that common sense, even at this table, the way that we approach a problem or the way that we interpret something is not going to be the same.
Okay.
I can completely agree with that. But I think also that's another problem that a lot of people have had with a lot of the curriculum in schools. A lot of it was biased to the level of education of the people. That's why I do think it should be more individual, based on individuals and each individual's ability to learn. And you could say white or black. I don't know if it's a white or black thing. My daughter goes to a pretty diverse school. Every student is different. You know what I mean? Every single student has their own, their own way of learning. So common sense when it comes to facing a problem or something, any type of adversity in life, yeah, you're right. It's going to be different. It's going to be different. My point was to be here at this table with the points that we were making. I think we all can understand it. But you're right. It's different. Everybody has a different level.
So in America, we have the largest number of prisons, and we have the most amount of prisoners per capita on Earth in our country. The largest number of our prisoners happen to be, by per capita, is black.
Yeah.
Why is that? How do we change that? Is it right? Is it wrong? How do we move forward from here?
That's a good question. And one thing I'm never ashamed to say is I don't know. I wish I knew the answers. I wish more people would admit that they didn't know, and more human conversations can be had about how to fix it. I don't know. I do know. I watched the documentary, the 13th, and I learned a lot. I didn't realize that, the 13th Amendment and everything, prison is basically a new form of slavery. It just is. And how the laws are, targeted towards black people.
Do you
don't know the answer.
Do you think that laws are targeted towards black people specifically, or do you think that? I believe that, which I brought up yesterday at our program, is that I believe that because there is no specific thing to point to, because if you could say, wait a minute, this law is racist, let's remove the law.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't exist, because it is sort of a under the skin, sort of incognito, and you don't really know why, but I think what's broken is the infrastructure. I believe that black child, now that's why Obama did a wonderful thing by becoming president, because he gave a hope beyond an athlete or a rapper to a young boy or even a young girl growing up, that there is something more than, that's not my only way out. I don't have to catch a ball or shoot a ball or hit a ball. I can, or sing, I can do something else and get out of where I'm at. But I think the infrastructure is broken. Yeah. I believe that the minorities, or especially the African Americans, are growing up with certain disadvantages that are causing them okay, to view things differently. And so because of that, then you have the issue of, hey, you can sling rock, all right, which means deal crack, and you can make $5,000 a week, okay, as just a pusher. So how can you tell that kid, go work at McDonald's or Subway or another job and make $180 a week or $300 a week?
Well, I think there's risks and rewards. Generally speaking, the higher the risk, the higher the reward. You can
Well,
go
yeah.
rob a bank,
Yes,
take out $1
you-
million
but
with,
what I'm
with
yes,
just an hour worth of work.
absolutely true. What I'm saying is to that child who does not see the light at the end of the tunnel, okay, but he sees his friend is doing, he's wearing the cool kicks, and because, like you said, they look, they assimilate. Oh, this is success. I want to look like this. I want to drive this car. I want to be able to spend money at the, at the club, or I want to do this. And these are different ages we're talking about, but one way to do that, okay, like BFM, okay, in Atlanta, Black Family Mafia.
Black
These
Mafia
guys-
Family,
yeah,
BMF,
Black Mafia, BMF,
BMF.
Black Mafia Family.
I'll just
They
let
were-
this go on for a while.
They were
Continue.
they were a race-driven gang, okay, that spent a lot of money, and they were in music. They actually did. So what I'm saying is, how can you tell that guy don't do this when you don't have something better to offer?
Okay, so then the answer is jobs then. We need to
No,
create
not
more
jobs. It's not just
So
jobs.
that people stop committing crime.
It's not just jobs, because I just gave you examples of 2 or 3 jobs. That's why I think it's the greatest answer is he doesn't know, I don't know, you don't know, and the people
Well,
don't know. If they
hold
did,
on.
they'd fix it.
No.
You certainly don't know.
Okay,
You
so
act
again-
like you do, but you
Again,
don't.
again, don't make claims, because if you,
don't
do,
know.
then you
How
put
do
me
you
in a
know?
position
How do
where
you
I have to
okay, fix
defend.
it? Fix
Right.
it. Fix it.
Allow me
Go ahead.
to bring
I would
proposals.
love to hear this.
Fix it.
All right. The first thing I want to also mention is I have answers. One of the answers I want to mention that actually goes to support Cliff's argument is that there are actual situations whereby this is a form of slavery. If we go back to our founding fathers, obviously not only slaves were not able to vote. There was a 3/5 compromise, which was that slave owners could count their slaves, and each slave would have 3/5 of a vote of a regular human being. They weren't even considered human beings, much less the fact that women couldn't vote either. So we move forward as far as our voting rights are concerned, but interestingly enough, the voting rights are still at play here, and I'm assuming you don't know why that is, because you think that everyone has no education. However, I'll tell you why that is. Fact of the matter is, in the majority of the states in our union, when you are charged and convicted of a felony, you are also stripped of one very fascinating thing: your right to vote almost forever.
Yeah.
So
I did
if you
know.
have the majority of people, if you have a majority of a population or a particular ethnic group or that is going to be locked up at some point, that group no longer has a voice. If you want to actually then create legislation, for example, to limit profiling, to be able, and that's one thing we can do. Just right now, a recent depository of information has been brought out by the CIA called the Seventh Vault, which now former Congressman Ron Paul and then Senator Rand Paul is looking into, because there's been a series of leaks to show how much the CIA does and where they look and how they're looking and what they're doing domestically, not just overseas, which is against their charter. So the fact of the matter is, if you want to actually open up, for example, profiling, which is one of the causes of this problem, you need to have the power, not just at the executive level, which Obama had for essentially only for 2 years, because he lost the legislative ability in the midterm election. You need to have the ability to legislate. If you want to legislate, you need to be able to vote.
To that point, we are slightly off camera touched on education, which is voter education is important.
Yes.
You can be educated, doesn't mean you're an educated voter. We just had an election last week. 1 out of 10 people registered to voted. Majority were women. Okay, that's another thing. Voter education. When I grew up in high school, I didn't know you could vote right after the presidential. All we knew was the presidential election. So you're right. When it comes to legislation and things like that, we, especially in the inner cities, we don't know. No one knows. And 9 times out of 10, for that piece of weed that we talked about last episode, someone's right. Or, if enough times that could be stripped to vote. So the voices are taken. But again, the complete answer of how to stop it, I don't know. It needs a complete system change. We could talk about, the black people that are being targeted and how they could, and what we could do, to stop that, but it's the system. It's more of a system issue than it is a black issue, because that system is still in play regardless. And if that system is still in play, they're going to find ways to manipulate it and continue to strip those voices, and that's not okay.
Another solution, marijuana laws. A lot of people who are in fact inside these prisons, black or white, Hispanic, they are put in prison because of drugs.
Yeah.
Okay, and more specifically marijuana, which has become a very common drug. So if we were to relax our marijuana laws, and unfortunately that's another topic that's very complicated, because the laws that litigate towards those are twofold. One is a state-based law. The other is DEA law, and the two currently actually contradict each other.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have to change those laws, which goes back to the voting. But that law will actually alleviate a lot of the population within the prison population. Also non-criminal or non-offensive criminals, people who are charged with non-violent crimes. I believe that there's a lot of things I know that there's a lot of sentencing called mandatory minimum sentencing for certain non-violent crimes. These are solutions that I propose to you that we go about and change. Some of those can happen at the executive level, at the governorships in each union state. Some of them are federal that need to change, that we come to the vote. And once we start to change minimal mandates for sentencing for nonviolent criminals, again, you start to give people second chances much earlier on. We can create then at that point rehabilitation processes for those inmates to then be able to get certain jobs, to change their value systems and be able to come. And I do believe some of it does have to do, obviously, with the economy. But even if you have a booming economy, to his point, to give him credit, if even in that place where there are jobs, if the person is not willing to put in that sweat and tears required to be able to work at that minimal earning job and work his way up that ladder, take a shortcut, he's still going to end up in a circumstance that's not ideal.
Well, it's more than anything
But that's
else.
his fault.
But
Right.
but
That's
it's
his
more
fault,
than
correct.
anything else is perception. You see, you're absolutely right with what you're saying, but it's the perception of that 14 to 18-year-old African American man. It's his perception of how can I get these things that I want. Okay, and I don't think he's thinking, let me go to school and let me go to university and let me get this degree, let me get a corporate job. He's thinking, I just go sling rock and I can get those things. And so it's important for that perception, with perception that's been, and we're talking about changing it now, but it's been there
Do you buy this
for
book?
years.
I love to listen first. And I'm happy that you talked about the system change. I think that's the most important thing. I thought you were going to talk about, the people. And
No, it's the system.
yeah, it's completely the system. I'll use myself for example. My mom died when I was 14. I was getting really great grades up until then. I was doing really well in school. Life changed. The bowling ball came and the pins just fell. Right? I could have easily made a choice to do what some of my friends were doing, which was go sell some weed. What there was a huge lack of opportunity for someone at that age who, granted, whether your mother's dead, you got a crackhead mother or whatever the things are, maybe got both parents, absent father, all these family issues that have to be fixed in the black community as well. There has to be a sense of, individual responsibility of that person to make a decision not to go down that road. I didn't choose to sell weed. I didn't choose to sell crack. I could have done that. I did have to use my talent. I did have to find a way, that dream of acting, and I had to get up out of that circumstance, So I don't think it's an easy answer, and I just it's tough, man. It's tough when it comes to this because I got friends back there that have nothing to do, but that. I do have those friends that have nothing to do. They're like, I gotta get this money, man. I'm out here on the block. I gotta push it, bro. Wish for me. But we know where it ends. And then when I go to the other side of it, just to have a human moment. When I go to the other side of it, I love my brothers, and I wish the best for them. But I know that if the system were to change, they're gonna go down. even with the system change, the mentality of the families have to change and the way we're
That's
raised.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's to your
That's
point.
what my
Yeah.
point is. That good luck trying to get a 15-year-old, okay, who sees mom and dad working, or even if dad is home, if there is a dad, if there is no dad and dad is gone, mom is working 2 or 3 jobs and just squeaking by, and they're wearing, I remember back, and they're wearing Keds instead of Nikes because there is no, you know what I'm saying, there is no real money for anything, and then he has an opportunity to go make $200, like make $2,000 a week, $200, $400 a day. He's gonna do that.
You're gonna do it. You're gonna.
You know what I'm saying? How are you gonna get him not to do it? Is like you said, there needs to be an overall system. And then you brought something that is so critical, my friend, which is there needs to be that self accountability.
Got to.
That's the bottom line.
Got to.
You need to be accountable for your actions. There's this whole thing in the black community about black women being mad at their men going out with white or non-black. I mean, non-black. Women, simple. Why are they doing that? Well, maybe because you're giving them too much of a hard time. Well, wait a minute, you're giving them a hard time because you want them to progress and be better. So that bad guy goes to somebody else that is an easier way. I mean, you got somebody like Kanye West, okay, who sings. Okay, he's gonna leave your ass for a white girl in the Gold Digger song, and then he goes, well, she's not white, but she's not black.
Yeah.
He goes with someone, and isn't it funny that his music went downhill after? But that's the Kardashian curse. That's irrelevant. That's something completely different.
That is.
Okay.
It's funny. I had a long conversation the other day with someone black with a black girl about why black men date others. We kept calling them others.
Yeah,
We could talk on that later, but that's
what it is.
It's,
You don't want to be
happening a lot.
Exactly.
It's
That's a good thing to transition to. I just want to finish this last point
Please.
to bring up one other solution,
Yes.
since we are looking for solutions. In every kind of a system, every time you have a valve, you have the potential for a solution. We have multiple valves before you get to prison and after you're going to prison. The two biggest valves are state laws and federal laws, which we touched on. Once we start to manipulate those, we can create some solutions. The most important one then is the person, the primary valve. You are responsible for what you do. So there's the psychological and community and sociological push from the family, from the community, from the church, from opportunity, from economy that needs to change on the person, because you do certain things that lead to certain consequences
Sure.
and end you up in jail. Then it comes to the police. And he brought up a great example, Cliff, in the last episode, where the police can then demonstrate leniency. In some cases say, look, this guy's a good guy, he's caught in a bad circumstance, I'm going to let him go on this one. At least this will make sure that he's not going to, for example, do certain things down the line.
Go around down the rabbit hole.
It's good,
Exactly.
right? The next part, the police doesn't put you in jail. The DA puts you in a position where you can be put in jail. So then we can go to the district attorney level. Those people can then do certain things, be able to pay it forward and look at the individual instead of looking at that persona.
Sure.
Look at the person and see what they're capable of. That area can change. The next valve is the judge. Once the judge has certain leniency opportunities and be able to circumvent, that person can then be able to create certain exemptions. Finally, we look at if you are in that circumstance, then there's the parole board. The parole board can then be pushed to be a little more lenient with certain prisoners and look at them on an individual basis.
So you
with
brought
each
up,
one of
you
these
brought up
valves-
6 valves.
Right. with
Okay.
each one
Now
of these valves-
what's funny is this: you bring up 6 valves that need to be manipulated to change a system to a certain extent.
7
right?
valves.
7
Yeah.
valves. But what's funny is we have 7 valves that are not doing that right now.
they're not at all.
You see, that's the whole point. So, as far as racism is concerned, whether it's towards Mexicans or blacks or Asians or whatever, absolutely, you see that in your 7 valve the
Paradigm.
demonstration or paradigm, you see that it is not happening.
And also, here's the thing. The reason why I say I don't know on that level is because of this. I don't know of any direct way to get those valves working at the same time with political agendas, money, big money, all these things, interest in all. It's too tough to get those to work together within the community, which is why I say individual responsibility. I think the churches could do more within the black community.
Yes.
Black people love their Jesus, okay? They love their Jesus, and they put all these monies into these churches, They're not giving it back. They're not giving much back. I gotta say, like, a lot of those churches aren't giving much back to the community other than hope on Sunday. You know, other than Hope on Sunday. That's about all you get. You know, now go out into the world and learn how to deal with it, right? Whereas if this is where, you know, the black community comes together, there should be a lot more focused on how to navigate through all these things and how to touch one of those vows. You know, I think a lot of those churches should Voltron come together and figure that out.
I think
you know?
the church could help with the biggest vow, which is what Al talks about, the personal accountability. But the point is, like you said, it's like, why did Jesus weep? And the guy doesn't have an answer. He wants you to figure it out. Well, if he could figure it out, you would have figured it out.
Yeah.
You need that strong figure. The bottom line is we get to the big question. Okay. The influence of the black man on his family.
It's important.
That's the key.
It's important.
When the black man leaves, and most of these scenarios you look at, yes, there is the anomaly. There are those exceptions to the rules that a kid comes and does something psychotic from a two-family scenario. But for the most part, these are single mothers raising these kids because dad left. Now that touches the why did he leave because of the black woman scenario. So there's so many things intertwined that it is absolutely not an easy fix.
And it's also not an easy fix. And two, I try personally to stay away from generalizations, right? And what you said makes a lot of sense and there's a lot of fact to it. But it's a lot of fact. It is fact. But
it is general, but
it's general, but it's fact.
But
you know,
it's
fact. You know what I mean? But it's really, really tough, and I get frustrated when these conversations come up because I know I don't know the answer, and what I do know is I see things and I don't know how to fix it, especially when it comes to the church. I'm really hard on the church because I remember when my mom passed, they tried to get me to church, and the first thing they told me, you know, I'm sitting here with two Iranians. I would assume that you both are Muslim. I'm not sure.
I'm American. I was born here.
Oh my gosh.
He's the Iranian.
My bad. Well, you know what I'm. Okay, well, Iranian.
What are you saying?
Are you Muslim?
No.
No. Are you?
No.
Was that prejudice?
No. It's a
No,
question.
it's
You speak fluent Farsi. I would have assumed that you were Muslim.
We have
Why?
Christians and Baha'is and Jews and Zoroastrians.
in Iran.
A learning experience. A learning experience. Well, let's just say for sure. Let's just say that you were. Right?
Okay.
The problem is when you go into the black community, all here at the Christian church, right?
They're all Baptists for the most part.
For the most part, and they're not really giving people the information to touch these vows and get.
That's a different exactly like that preacher is making the money from the people, right? But he's not spending it maybe on the people. He's spending on himself. He's spending. I mean, listen, I've dealt with some evangelists, and the guy spends so much money on clothing and bodyguards and this and that. Whatnot. He's really not walking the way of the Lord. But that's a different subject for a different day. The issue is that it is. Here's the key. What's happening right now, this conversation is what's necessary.
Yeah.
We need to have this conversation. The black lives do matter, just like every other life. And unfortunately, they've seem like mattered less than other lives. And we need to make sure that every life is important. The black life does come next to the other life as a white life and so on and so forth. But what's important is there needs to be this conversation from a non-confrontational perspective between the black man and the white man, the black man or the non-black man. And there needs to be that discourse, and through that spark of different opinions, through the clash of different opinions, the spark of truth shall appear if we allow that to appear. And then once we get the spark, if we're able to get some stuff under it for it to become maybe a little bit of a smolder and maybe it becomes a fire, then if you air it, give it more oxygen, then it could be the things you're talking about, the 7 points that are so eloquently put down that could be a start to change. But more than anything else, okay, is the role model scenario. Charles Barkley says, I'm not your kid's role model. I tell Charles Barkley, then get the heck off the TV, brother. Because if you're on TV, if you are someone making money because those kids are looking at you, buying your sneakers and go supporting your team, then whether you like it or not, de facto, you are a role model and you have to act like that. And that's the key. And so Clifford, in my opinion, is an absolute role model for the black community. And I'm not saying that he's the guy who called me an asshole. The bottom line is, he's not an asshole, he's an absolute 100%, and I'm very serious. He is a role model for the black community because he is a high school dropout, okay, who didn't take the path of least resistance. Because in that culture, that's the path of least resistance, baby.
Right
You go
there.
down there and you might get stopped, you might get, arrested. But the bottom line is that's when the quick money comes in, the girls come, everything comes because. So he didn't take the path of less resistance. He took the path of most resistance, and he made something of his life. And hopefully, there's great things to come. And I cannot wait to see him on the Oscar stage accepting the
There it
Oscar for. Why are you putting him down?
I'm not.
Why are you putting him down?
I'm just
Why are
saying.
you putting him
I'm
down?
not talking.
I know
You've
you're
been talking for
prejudiced.
15 minutes.
No, the whole show's
No,
30
and
minutes.
you're
I haven't
telling-
been talking
for
to 15 minutes.
You've been telling me
Not
how
at
Cliff
all.
feels
I'm
and
not-
what Cliff's been
No, no,
going
no.
through, and that Cliff took the path of leisure. Why let Cliff talk and tell us what
Because
he's
Cliff
done?
is
What
too
is-
modest. to
I
talk
won't
about
say- I
the
wouldn't- I
things.
wouldn't- I wouldn't say that.
He's
That's it.
I wouldn't say that, and I'm completely okay with knowing when it comes, because we're talking about something really, really heavy. I don't know the answer to this, man, and I think that's one of the most human things people can say. And like I agree with you, conversations like these are where you can.
That's what we need to
Now,
have.
now tell me, you're dating a Persian chick, or what's going on? With
No,
that?
No.
What's the story? Then?
Movie he wrote.
That was it's a,
So
a
what-
script.
so what's
a script I
happening
wrote.
there? Well, tell me about
Okay, well, in that dating a Persian girl, her father disapproves. Iranian.
Let's stop this whole thing about Persian. There is
Okay.
no such. There's like an empire 2,500
No,
years
no.
ago.
Actually, you're wrong, and I'll tell you what.
Okay, why? Because the
I don't wanna go
Parsians.
into that.
Because
I don't
everyone
wanna-
every time I
It's-
ask someone, I say, well, they say they put Persian in parentheses Iranian. They always say Persian Iranian.
Those people say it simply because they don't want to admit that they're Iranian. Okay, that's what I
Okay.
say to those.
There could be some, but no.
Okay.
There's a. We'll get. It's
Talk
not
about that
relevant,
Okay, yeah.
but
So
go ahead, you can use both terms.
dating an Iranian girl, right? Father doesn't approve. There's a big, I say mass shooting specifically because those are usually associated with
Yes.
white people. That's something else we didn't talk about. Whereas all these mass shootings going on, but nobody's cracking down on these young white teenagers. Okay? Nobody's at them. So there's a mass shooting happens, and it's assumed it was a terror attack and they were Muslims. We go to the hospital, and her father. I have a moment with her father that's kind of open, and my character Cephas is just he's really shitting on religion at that point because the pastor comes in and tries to calm everything down. But it's called Generation X, and it's about a generation of people who feel X'd out of society. I got that from Charles Manson with the X on his forehead, because trying to break free from rules, tradition, and religion, and to be free to love who you are.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us the last couple of episodes. I really appreciate it. You brought an incredible new perspective you brought some color to the proceedings.
Yeah.
And I think it was nice to do that. And why you look so perplexed?
No, I just think that you're using innuendos that are unnecessary and perhaps
We're all of color.
inappropriate. Yeah.
We're all.
Well, I appreciate you bringing color to the proceedings.
Yes,
And appearing on this program, and thanks again. And we will be keeping you posted on Generation X when it's going to be on theaters, hopefully in the near future, and you will go see it and judge for yourself. Thank you, Al, for your time.
Thank you, Mickey.
Thank you,
Cliff.
Clifford.
Thank you.
So much. Thank you, Clifford.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. God bless. And we will go ahead and talk to you next time.